My dear friend, if your heart feels weary today, if you've grown tired of explaining yourself, defending your intentions, or trying to convince people of who you really are, I want you to pause for just a moment and hear this. You don't have to fight every battle. You don't have to answer every accusation. You don't have to prove your worth to people when your identity has already been established by God. Can I ask you something? What if your greatest victory doesn't come from speaking louder, but from trusting God more deeply? I know how painful it feels to be misunderstood. It hurts when people judge your heart without knowing your story. It hurts when your kindness is mistaken for weakness, or when your silence is mistaken for defeat. But what if your silence isn't weakness at all? What if it's one of the greatest acts of faith? The Bible tells us in Exodus 14:14, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Isn't that beautiful? God never intended for you to carry every burden, win every argument, or defend yourself against every opinion. Some battles don't belong to you. They belong to Him. Sometimes we become so focused on what people think that we lose sight of what God says. We spend hours replaying conversations, worrying about criticism, and trying to fix what others believe about us. But peace begins the moment our focus shifts, not toward our problems, not toward people's opinions, but toward God. When you focus on God, your fears become smaller. His promises become louder than your doubts. His peace becomes stronger than your anxiety, and His love reminds you that your value has never depended on human approval. Psalm 46:10 gently says, "Be still and know that I am God." Notice that God invites us to be still before He asks us to do anything else. Stillness creates room for trust. Stillness reminds us that God is already working, even when we cannot see it. Sometimes heaven speaks most clearly when our hearts become quiet. My sweet friend, humility is one of the most beautiful qualities a believer can have. But humility is often misunderstood. It doesn't mean thinking less of yourself. It means thinking of God more. It means saying, "Lord, I trust your wisdom more than my own." It means letting go of pride, surrendering control, and believing that God can accomplish far more than our own efforts ever could. James 4:10 tells us, "Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will lift you up." Notice who does the lifting, not people. Not your achievements, not your reputation, God Himself. And when God lifts you up, no one can take away what He has given you. Perhaps you've been carrying anger because someone treated you unfairly. Maybe you've wanted to defend yourself to prove your innocence or to make sure everyone knows your side of the story. Those feelings are understandable. But listen carefully. Not every criticism deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding requires an explanation. Sometimes your greatest testimony is your quiet trust in God. Proverbs 15:1 reminds us, "A gentle answer turns away wrath." Gentleness isn't weakness. It's strength under God's control. Anyone can react in anger, but it takes a heart surrendered to Christ to respond with grace. Jesus Himself showed us this. He wasn't controlled by pride. He wasn't consumed by proving Himself to everyone. He walked in humility, truth, and love, trusting His Father completely. Philippians 2 teaches us to have the same mindset as Christ, a heart that chooses humility over pride and obedience over self-promotion. Imagine laying every hurt, every insult, every disappointment, and every fear at the feet of Jesus. Imagine no longer carrying the heavy burden of trying to control what others think about you. Imagine walking away with a heart that feels lighter because you've placed everything into God's loving hands. That is freedom. That is peace. That is what happens when you trust Him completely. Remember this: silence becomes powerful when it is filled with trust. The battles you surrender to God become the victories that strengthen your faith. And a peaceful heart speaks louder than the strongest argument. The world often tells us to fight for recognition. God invites us to rest in His presence. The world says, "Make sure everyone notices you." God says, "Walk humbly with me." The world tells us to seek applause. God reminds us that His approval is enough. Micah 6:8 says that the Lord has shown us what is good, to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. What a beautiful way to live. So today, my dear friend, I want to encourage you to stop carrying battles that God never asked you to fight. Focus on His voice instead of the noise around you. Choose humility over pride. Choose peace over anxiety. Choose trust over fear. And choose silence when your heart wants to argue, knowing that God sees every hidden tear, every silent prayer, and every faithful act of obedience. Nothing escapes His notice. Nothing is forgotten. He knows your heart. He knows your story. And in His perfect time, He will honor your faithfulness. Never forget this. God never asks you to prove yourself to people He has already called. When you focus on Him, everything else begins to fall into place. When you humble yourself before Him, He lifts you up. And when you trust Him enough to be still, He fights battles you could never win on your own. If today's message spoke to your heart, type, "I will focus on God" in the comments. Share this message with someone who needs God's peace today, and subscribe for more faith-filled encouragement that strengthens your walk with Christ and draws you closer to His presence. Until next time, may the Lord fill your heart with His perfect peace, strengthen your faith, and remind you every day that the safest place you can ever be is in His loving hands. Keep your eyes on God, walk in humility, and trust Him in the quiet, because He is always working, even when you cannot yet see it.